This is a road trip from Durbanville to Simonstown, going to a friend of mine that passed away, Alan James. We're going to his memorial service at the Naval Museum in Simonstown. Now, I've known Alan for about 45 years. We worked together in the dockyard in Simonstown, and he was a trade training officer, and he was out my way on the 1st of April for a visit, and now we're on our way to his memorial service. Now, on the left in the distance is a bridge. That's the R300 flyover, which is going to be extended all along the Cales River down to Wellington Road in the near future. Okay, the road makes a turn to the right, and here's Stodels. There's the entrance on the left. And on the left there are people selling plants and grass and all woodwork. And on the left where the blue car is. And coming up is a intersection. If you turn right, you go to Tiger Valley and Durban Road. If you turn left, this Old Oak Road goes down to Stickland, Cales River and Belleville. Now in front here, the road makes a turn to the left. That's the N1. But if you go straight on with this road, you go right down to Stickland. Okay, this is the branch off to the N1. Now normally when you come around this bend and you see the traffic on the right, you know if the traffic's going to be heavy or normal. But this is about 20 past 9 and we have to be in Simonstown by 10:30. Now I drove this road for 28 years every day, but then we left at 6 in the morning, and to get into the right lane is a bit of a tricky issue because of the traffic. So yeah, the idea is to get to the right lane as soon as possible, because this is the faster lanes. In front, if you take the next turn off to the left, that goes to Durban Road down to Belleville Station and the Belleville CBD, and right you go up to Tiger Valley, which goes into Durbanville Avenue, which leads into Durbanville proper. There's the sign. In the distance is Table Mountain. On the right is PRASA's head office for the Western Cape. Now, coming up on the left is Karl Bremer Hospital, and also the turn off to Jip de Jager Avenue. If you turn right, you go up to Welgemoot and to Kortemans Kloof. You can take that road, very scenic. And if you turn left at the bottom by the traffic lights, you go down to Belleville Para. That big white building on the left, that's Karl Bremer Hospital. Now in front here there's a road coming in from the left, which is from Paro area. And if you're going to go down to Panorama Hospital, you've got to change lanes in front here to the left. But normally here you can see how the traffic's going to be, because sometimes there's a build-up of traffic just down Plattekloof Hills. On the right is a Protea Hotel and also head offices of various businesses. Now there's the sign to show you straight on to Cape Town or left to McIntyre Avenue, which goes to Panorama Avenue, and Panorama Hospital is on Panorama Avenue. Now the next turn off to the left is Gilbason Avenue that goes to N1 City and to Monte Vista. But you can see just in front here the traffic is starting to back up. Now this turn off, if you go to the left, you can also go to N1 City Shopping Center and down to the airport via Paro. Now this is 9:30 in the morning and the traffic is already backed up because there's a big intersection in front where you turn down to Goodwood, Grand West and Grand West Arena, and also you go on to the N7 to Montague Gardens, and that is why all the cars coming from Montague Gardens try to get into the N1. It always doesn't matter what time of the day, except weekends. It's a bottleneck in this area. Now that turn off to the left, where those cars are going on the left, that also goes to N1 City and also to Monte Vista. Now on the right is Goodwood Prison, and then there's the turn off to Goodwood and Grand West Arena. And once you get past this intersection, the traffic normally 99% flows much quicker. Now there's the turn off, the big intersection. Now normally if you're going to Milnerton, Montague Gardens or Goodwood, you try and get to the left lane as soon as possible. Now also these buildings on the left, that is called Fort Ikapa, which is part of Wingfield. Those are storage area for military equipment, because we used to come to these areas before we went to Namibia for a 3-month army camp to collect new military equipment. If your water bottle or ground sail was broken, you replaced it there. Naval stores are also just like a kilometer behind these buildings. And if you go to Goodwood, turn left, you go down, and then you got the Wingfield proper. Wingfield is a naval base. You can see the traffic build up on the left and on top of the bridge going onto the N1 or down to Goodwood. Now, if you get through this interchange, the traffic will start flowing much better. That's Table Mountain in the distance, Signal Hill on the right, and Lions Head on the left. Now, this is also if you leave at 6 in the morning, this stretch is normally open. You can travel quite quickly down to Cape Town. That building on the right is Vodacom's head office, the one with the black solar panels. Now, the next turn off is Sable Road. That leads to Century City Shopping Centre and also down to Bosmansdam Road if you're going to Milnerton or Blouberg Strand. It's another route to take. Just in front of this Eskom building on the left is like a small lagoon. which developed over the years, and a lot of bird life there. On the left, it's a container storage area, very big. And also on the left, those buildings on the left is part of Maitland. And on the right is Eysterplaat Air Force Base, which we flew from many times when we used to go to Namibia for our 3-month border camps. Now here you also, if you're going to go the M5 route, you're going to start deciding which lane you're going to take. If you stay in the left hand lane, that eventually leads to the M5. The 2 lanes on the right goes down to Cape Town. And to Coburg Road, which goes through Brooklyn. You can see these big white things in front here, that's the containers. And that peak sticking out in front is Devil's Peak. Okay, now if you take the left lane, you go to Maitland, but we're going to go straight on to the M5, which sometimes all depends what time of the day. There's normally a bottleneck at the top of this bridge because the 2 lanes go into a singular lane. Now on the left there's all small businesses. It's like a industrial park. On the right is Amazon's head office. And the Leespeak, the Black River and the Leespeak River runs on the right hand side of this white wall, other side of the freeway. What road you're going to take? Because there's 2 ways you can go. Now you've got to take the off ramp to the N2 which leads into the M3, or you just go straight on down to St. George's Drive. On the right is Amazon's new head office. And you see here you got to make a decision now. If you take the left lane, you go onto the N2 to the airport. So we decided the best course of action is just to keep on with the M5 right down to Steenberg. Which was a very good decision, because if you see the traffic coming up on the N2, you could see the traffic on the right here. It went on 4 kilometers. So this is where you turn off onto the N2, and we decided just to go straight. Now just keep an eye on the traffic on the right. On the right is a Netcare hospital, and coming up on the left is Rondebosch East, and Rondebosch is also on the right hand side of the road. The traffic is still on the right hand side. And coming up will be the turn off to the Kenilworth Racecourse. On the right is Access City, all shops. We're still on the M5, and this is Rondebosch East on the left and Kenilworth on the right. On the left on the right coming up is Access Park. Quite a lot of shops there. And there is the turn off to Kenilworth Racecourse. That's why this time of the morning the traffic isn't heavy on the M5, but on the M3 there's so many traffic lights that you got to go through. The next turn off is to Ottery and to Youngsfield Military Base, used to be the 10 Anti-Aircraft Regiment. If you take the left turning, once you branch off you go to Ottery, and if you turn right you go to Wynberg, Plumstead, Deep River, those suburbs. Here's the military base on the left, and there's a sports fields on the right. Now sometimes on this road, but there are cameras, you got to reduce from 100 down to 70 very quickly. See, there's the sign for the cameras. At the next traffic lights, if you turn right you go down to Southfield and Plumstead, Dick Burton Road. At these traffic lights, if you turn right you go down to Plumstead. There's the cameras, speeding cameras. Now in front here is another set of traffic lights which is quite busy. I think the suburb on the left is Parkwood Estate. Like I said, if these traffic lights catch you, you wait quite a while. The next traffic light, if you go right, you go to Southfield and Deep River and the main road. In the distance is Muizenberg Mountains. Then coming up on the left is Grassy Park. Now on the right, they built a mini fish market where they used to sell their snook and all. There's also a place situated there. I think it's called the Princess Flay. And on the left is Grassy Park, and on the right is Retreat Steenberg. If you turn right at these next traffic lights, it's Concert Boulevard. That goes down to Retreat Station. That turn off there. And then coming up on the left round the bend is Lavender Estate. If you go straight on with this road, you come out by Muizenberg Circle at Sunrise Beach and Muizenberg, and then if you turn left at the circle, you go down Baden-Powell Drive that leads back to the N2. And here is also a bit of a traffic pull-up because we're gonna go down Military Road. Where the mountain goes down to the left, that's Muizenberg, and in the middle of those mountain range is Lakeside. I painted my initials on the mountain together with my late friend Peter Griebenow, so there's PG EP, and above that is AO, which is Andre Oosthuizen, but that was done like 40 odd years ago. Okay, now we're coming up to Military Avenue or Military Road, which leads down to the main road at Steenberg. Here's also a bit of a bottleneck. There by those trees on the left hand side, if you go down there, you go to Vrygrond. Now this road is very busy because there's a lot of businesses down this road. That's Constantiaberg in the distance. The reason for the backup of traffic here is a railway line in front that goes to Steenberg Station. That's where I worked about 50 years ago. see if you turn left here, the station's on the left. And here's the rail crossing. They're trying to get this route running on a regular basis. Now on the left is the suburb Steenberg, and on the right is an industrial area. Now at the T-junction at the traffic lights, if you turn right you go to Retreat, Plumstead, Deep River, Cape Town, all the way to Cape Town. If you turn left you go to Muizenberg, Cork Bay, Fischhoek, Simonstown. But we're going to go over Oudtshoornweg. Because it's sort of a shortcut, you miss all the traffic in the main road. Now this is the main road. There's Muizenberg Mountains, Kirstenhof is on the right, left is Steenberg, and at the next traffic lights, if you turn right you go to Oudtshoornweg and back to the M3 at the top of the freeway. This BP garage has been there since probably 60, 70 years. Used to throw in petrol there when I still had my Mini. Okay, on the left past these houses is Westlake Golf Club. And on the right is Kirstenhof. Yeah, on the left, that's the golf club. Silver Mine military, naval military bases, those white houses on the left at the top. And these cars on the right, they're coming from the M3 going down to the main road. In front here, if you turn right you go onto the M3. No, sorry, you take the branch off to the left in front here, and that goes to the M3. Now on the right is also like an industrial business park. The American embassy is in there somewhere. front here the road branches off up to Oakharpseweg, or if you go straight you go down to Tukai, past Paulsmoor Prison and Steenberg Estate, also a golf course. Right, this is the beginning of Oakharpseweg. Beautiful scenic route, but it's not so scenic now because about a month ago there was a massive mountain fire. You'll see all the brown areas like there on the right. If you turn left in there you go to Silver Mine military base, and you'll see the brown marks up there. That's where the fire was. Well, it was all over the mountain. We'll drive through that just now. Now that's Constantia on the right. If you actually at the top of this road there's a lookout area where you can stop and you see the whole peninsula. There's the fire damage. Now to the left, if you can see to the left, you see Muizenberg Beach, the whole of peninsula right down to the Strand and Gordons Bay and Royals. The top here, the road makes a sharp turning to the right, and then you're on a small plateau. Now from here, if you look to the left, you'll see there in the distance, you can see the sea. That outcrop there on the left, that's where our initials are painted on. And here you can see the damage of the fire, left and right of this road. Now in front here, if you turn right, you go to parking area where you can get out and have a view of the whole peninsula. Coming up a Silver Mine Nature Reserve, you can see the fire damage, the brown on both sides of the road. Normally if you hit a truck on this pass, you got to stick behind it because you can't basically overtake. Still fire damage. This whole mountain range was alight. There's another part of the ocean in the distance. Here's a truck, and now you see all the cars stuck behind it. Now it's still fire damage. See all the cars on the right stuck behind the truck. In the front here, Silver Mine Retirement Village. They had to evacuate the village when the fire was going. Down there on the right is the village. Okay, this is going past Silver Mine Retirement Village, and this is going towards Sun Valley. Now when you get to the top of this little rise, you'll see the ocean in the distance with Komiki on the left hand side and Long Beach, which is a favorite surfing spot. Now luckily the fire never came this side of the mountain. And this is still green and lush. Coming up on the left is a new wish development. It's also a housing estate. Because many years ago there was nothing here. No houses, no buildings, nothing. There's the entrance to the estate. At the following traffic lights, if you turn right, you go down to Chapman's Peak and to Nuatuk. On the left is Sun Valley. On the right is, I think it's Long Beach Mall. these traffic lights takes a long time to change. But if you turn left at these traffic lights, there's a short cut to Komiki Road through Sun Valley. Now at the next traffic lights, if you turn left, you go to Fishhook, Simonstown and the main road. If you turn right, you go down to Komiki. Capri Village is just past these traffic lights on the right hand side. Now, many years ago, there was no buildings on the left except a mine, a colon mine. But there are a lot of houses being built on the left-hand side. Capri Village is on your right. This is called Black Hill Drive. And on the right in the mountains is the Gama Park, which is a naval residential area. When you come down this road, the view is very spectacular. You see Glenken Beach and Glenken on both sides of the road. There on the right hand side you can start seeing houses, which is Glenken. There's False Bay in the distance, and there's a T-junction at the bottom. Turn left to Cork Bay, St James, Museumberg Main Road to Cape Town, and right is to Simonstown and Cape Point. There's the other houses, also part of Glenken. There was an accident here a few weeks back where a guy went right over this road, right over the sand dunes, and did a backflip, and the car landed on the beach. Okay, there's Simonstown in the difference. Here's Glencairn. Now that hollowed out piece is new. They're probably going to build a new housing complex there. And the Glencairn Hotel is just up this road. When you turn right at this road here, you go up to the Garma Park. There people used to windsurf. I used to windsurf on the left where this car was. We used to park and rig up our rigs. And then on the right is Dixie's, a very popular restaurant. There you are where the flags are. On the right is a sort of a newish supermarket complex. Used to be where the old marine oil used to be. And there's also a graveyard of Commonwealth soldiers on the right here, just before this white building. This is the complex, shopping complex. If you turn right here, you go to Dido Valley and also to the Garma Park. On the left is naval guns that they use for practice. On the left there's the guns. And then coming up you can turn right to Radial, which goes over to Mystic Cliffs and Cape Point and Scarborough. On the left is Long Beach, right by Simonstown Station. Here's the station on the left. And then the next big building is Admiralty House, where they have naval functions for overseas naval officers and commanders. They stay here with this white picket fences on top. That's Admiralty House. On the right used to be Logistic Command, and this road going up on the right where we'll park is Rangeman Drive. Goes all around Simonstown, the top end, and comes out on the other side of Simonstown. On the left is the Naval Museum. That's where the memorial service is being held. And further on is West Yard, the entrance to the West Yard. These buildings all along here is all national monuments, the most national monuments in 1 kilometer in South Africa. This is where we turn up. To the left is Rangeman Drive, and here we arrive for the memorial service of my friend Alan James. May he rest in peace.